Alhamdulillahi ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astaghfiruhu wa astahdih. One of the most frustrating parts of human life on this earth is our relationship with sin. Things that either we are told that it is bad and wrong for you, or we also ourselves recognize the destructive nature of many things that we sometimes find ourselves tempted to do, unable to withhold, unable to control our desires, unable to restrain ourselves. And this struggle of life in which we are constantly struggling against those tendencies, I think, is the most troubling part of life on this earth. Living here is like walking on water, that if you walk on water, it is not possible for you not to get wet. In the same way, if you live on this earth, it is very hard to find a way in which you are completely free of sins and do not do anything wrong ever. Regarding human nature, people have held so many different views. But one thing that is common, whether religion or no religion, is the idea that certain things we recognize as right and good to do, and even in a civic sense, and certain things will be looked down upon and will be said that that's not good thing to do. And so the idea about human nature, what human nature is, which causes us to have to deal with this, that rest of the creation in the world does not have to deal with that, does not have to deal with its consequences. And we human beings have to deal with the consequences not only in this world and in the next world. Differing views about the human nature as to maybe human beings are born evil and they have to struggle to free themselves from their innate, inherent, inborn evilness that you are created with. And so they look at this as a hereditary thing where every human generation has to deal with that, for which they have no recourse to overcome that nature, and there has to be certain extraordinary events to be able to counter it or compensate it, not take care of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very different and balanced way. And He says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that we created human beings on the best possible standing, best possible nature, best possible everything that can be given to it. And if the man falls low and does degrading things in life, then ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ, the capacity to do that exists in us. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with tendencies for both. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. So this idea of lifelong struggle to trying to prevent yourself from doing bad things. So what is our relationship with this thing, and why do we, as Allah's creation, have to deal with it compared to the rest of the creation? I sometimes think of it as a metaphor of a car, which is a very powerful machine. It's designed to take you from one place to the another place to reach your destination. And in order to make it powerful, it has to go in only one direction, but in order to make it powerful, It has to be equipped with brakes, with gears, with the ability to turn in any direction it wants. And if someone is not trained to drive it to its destination, then the car can go in each direction, and even untrained driver will very quickly get it into an accident. But if you take away those capabilities of being able to turn any direction, being able to brake, being able to go back rather than go forward when it's needed, without those capacities, the car will not function the way we want it to function or give you the benefit that you want to derive from it. In the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in this world with a choice to drive our lives, being given a freedom which is not to anyone else. The rest of the universe must submit ta'wan aw karhan. But we human beings have been given this freedom to be able to drive ourselves in this journey of life. And if we have the ability to drive, then we must also have ability to turn in whatever direction we want to turn, to do destructive things, to cause accidents. And so that goes hand in hand with the idea that you are supposed to walk on a path and reach a destination. Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path on which you are supposed to follow, is not possible without also being given this capacity to turn around, this capacity to not following that direction in which we want to follow. And so this is exactly the idea that Prophet ﷺ expressed when he said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَوْ لَمْ تُذْنِبُوا لَذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِكُمْ وَلَجَاءَ بِقَوْمٍ يُذْنِبُونَ فَيَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهَ فَيَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ. That if any sword in whose hands is my life, he swore by his life, that if you stop committing sins, means if you don't have that capacity to commit sins, la dhahaba Allah bikum, Allah will remove you, because that will be against the nature on which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings. وَلَا جَاءَ بِقَوْمٍ يُذْنِبُونَ فَيَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهَ فَيَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ. And then he will bring some other people who will commit sin. Then they will seek forgiveness, and so that Allah will be able to forgive that sin for them. So the process to deal with this frustration of life, of trying to keep us straight, is also indicated in this hadith. فَيَسْتَغْفِرُونَ اللَّهَ فَيَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ. This istighfar, which we oftentimes think of as uttering certain words from our tongue and saying astaghfirullah and as if you are done. But istighfar is not linked particularly to your sin, but istighfar is a process that must constantly and always be there. Prophet ﷺ, who was masoom, who could not commit anything wrong, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave special protection, said, I seek forgiveness 100 times a day. So the path to perfection, to be able to drive yourself to the destiny that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires you to, goes through this process of constantly steering yourself. Istighfar is a process of steering to keep you straight. And anyone who drives the car knows that car will not go straight unless you are constantly applying a corrective mechanism to it. Sometimes it becomes habits and we do it without thinking, but that's a process that is always working out there. And so this is where we need to understand our relationship with sin and capacity to do wrong. That if that didn't exist, then we will be people of completely different nature. And the process to make ourselves right is this process of istighfar, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to so often in the Quran. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. That when they do something wrong and indecent, they immediately realize that they have done something wrong and they fix it. Exactly the process that happens when you're driving, except that this is your life, and this is your life that is moving towards a destiny, whether you want it or not. You can't turn it off. Car can be turned off, but your life cannot be turned off. Ya ayyuhal insanu innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqi. You are always toiling, struggling, and moving in that direction until that day comes that you meet your Lord. It has no start and stop that is in your control. All you can do is you're given a control of a moving car, and you must take charge, and you must fix that its direction and not allow it to swerve, not allow it to get into accidents. And we all know what that means. I don't have to stand here and count to you all the traits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires from us. But the traits that He describes of the mu'mineen, of the believers, of being truthful, of being honest, of being qanit, of being submitting to Allah, and all of those great qualities, it also includes the quality of taibun, those who are constantly turning back. And abdi munib and qalbi munib, those who are constantly turning themselves around. And that is the process. So we should not be frustrated by our shortcomings. That has to exist. That will be there. We cannot get rid of those shortcomings. But we must always be ready to apply a corrective mechanism to fix it. And as long as you are able to do that, then you will be protected from it going into a wrong direction. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر